Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today for the first segment, his name is James Thompson. He is basically the owner of NFP Sports, and it's his first time on the show. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
And we've got a lot to get to today, but let's start with sort of a definition of NFP Sports. What is it?
Well, the NFP stands for National Fundraising Partners. We were founded in 2009 as a dealer model business, and we are now today a franchise business.
Wow. So talk about a franchise for this. When you're talking about fundraising and you're a franchise, it really gives you a lot more opportunities than if you were kind of going it on your own, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, in our industry, which is high school sports marketing, there are very few known standards for fundraising companies in the industry. So the biggest thing for us was we wanted to create some high-level standards by which the industry would operate. And a franchise system is the only system that we really came across that would do that. It would enable us to be able to become scalable, grow throughout the country, but also hold all the people that represent our company and assist the schools in the fundraising efforts to a certain standard.
So how was it decided that high school sports needed marketing, it needed fundraising? And of course, we know it does. I mean, these things cost money, but talk about your involvement in it and why it's necessary.
Well, I got involved 14 years ago. I used to own a health club, and when the health club wasn't going as planned, I was a 23-year-old business owner. I realized I was really missing sports.
You were a young entrepreneur back then,
I
right?
was. I just didn't really know the back end of any business, and I was really good at signing people up to gym memberships, being a personal trainer, teaching different classes, but when it came to running the business on the back end, it wasn't my forte.
See, now that's what I was, why didn't it work? You're getting a health club, fitness club is like a steady stream of income, at least $20 at least every month from every person, and it's always coming in. How does that not work out, you know?
Well, it's the back end of the business. It's the fact that we needed to get financing, and I didn't know how to speak to banks. They really didn't want to loan us $50,000 because I was really excited about the business.
That wasn't a good enough reason?
No, it wasn't. Even back then, even when things were looser, but I was 23, had no collateral.
But you talked your way into the business in the first place, so you were a talker, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was very aware of the statistics that most businesses fail within the first 3 years, and I hung around for about a year and a half, and I actually was able, I had other partners involved. We were able to hand the keys to one of our employees, and to my knowledge, under a different name, the business still exists today.
Nice.
So
someone's doing a good job with the back end of that business too,
yes.
right?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so now we fast forward a little bit, and your career made a move into, it wasn't a franchise at that point when you first started out, right?
No, it was with a different company, Varsity Gold at the time. How I found them was my girlfriend, now wife, made me go on to Hot Jobs and put in sports and sales, the two things that I was most passionate about. And we came across Varsity Gold, and they had an independent dealer model. And I inquired about it, and next thing you knew, I was a sales rep for Connecticut, and I represented half of the state, and really had to go in school to school and build the account base up from there.
But there came a point where you realized, you know what, I'm kind of doing this for somebody else. This brand or this type of business exists already in franchise mode. It would be much more advantageous if I could kind of get into that a little bit, right?
Yes, so the culture was changing, unfortunately, and for me personally, when I ascended to leadership, I had about half of the Northeast that I was responsible for, and the team that we built was very strong. We had record sales. Our coaches were very happy. But the things we wanted to do in regards to sponsorship, in regards to support of the local coaches and the different sports that we were supporting, there wasn't a real fit between Varsity Gold and us. So we started doing some local things, and then in 2009, Varsity Gold filed bankruptcy, and most people saw it as a huge hit. Financially it was, but it was the biggest opportunity that we ever came across.
So it was bad news for the company, but for you guys personally, it was a tremendous opportunity.
There was about $4.2 million in lost commissions that were owed to all of us, all 200 of us. But as somebody pointed out, that was our entrance into the business. That was our fee to get in. So we gained our autonomy. Certain sales reps flourished in that, and others really didn't make it. So we were fortunate enough to retain a good number of people from the old company and start NFP Sports, and here we are, in 2014.
But when you join a company that's basically a franchise, you have to make some changes to adhere to the franchise policies. Was it a big difference? Was it a big change?
Absolutely. Being involved in establishing the franchisor company and also being a franchisee had both its challenges and its advantages. So you think you have to make all the rules that are going to apply to everybody, and they got to be fair, but you also have to live up to them and be that example. So that was a challenge, but the biggest challenge was all the legal paperwork, financially, just a tremendous investment to become a franchise system. But once it's established, the concept is that it's scalable and that somebody can get into the business at a very low cost of entry and have systems that are set up. So, sitting down and writing a 50-page operations manual.
Right.
That's the part when you're an outside sales rep who's used to being on the road and you're told you have to sit down and come up with a 50-page operations manual.
Wow.
So every single detail of the business is covered. That was a big challenge for us.
So when you're a franchise, you basically have a territory. So for you, is it the state of Connecticut, or how does it work?
So the territory that I run is Connecticut East,
Okay.
Which is pretty much all of eastern Connecticut, which goes out towards New Haven and up through Hartford. And then Kevin Digby, who's been in the business almost as long as I have, operates the Connecticut West territory.
Do you guys have a relationship? Do you work together ever?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very close relationship. We collaborate on almost everything. Being a franchise business, we operate pretty much the same way. But there's nothing that's written that we have to support and sponsor the same initiatives. But whether it's the Connecticut High School Coaches Association, Walter Camp Football Foundation, or the National Football Foundation, we have chosen over the years to work together in sponsorship and support of those organizations.
So how does it work? Do schools, do other organizations, do they come to you? Do you go to them and say, I have an idea? How does it work?
Well, initially, it took going into each school and introducing yourself to the head coaches. Predominantly, it was football in the beginning, but it's grown to baseball, lacrosse, soccer, basketball, you name the sport.
Right.
They all need fundraising now. And it always starts with getting into the school, meeting the coaches. What starts to happen is coaching is a tight-knit community. And what happens when somebody has a positive experience, the same way as if they have a bad experience.
Spreads like a virus, right?
It spreads.
Yeah.
So the word of mouth kicked in for us. And we were fortunate enough to work with some tremendous coaches that really did right by us and introduced us to their coaches that they shared in a coach association. So it was a combination of just good old-fashioned knocking on doors and some referrals.
This day and age, how much of sports is funded by the school, hence the taxpayer is built in? And it seems like all schools need some kind of fundraising, but how much more is that the case nowadays?
Well, to be clear, we never state that we're going to replace operational money. We don't want to step on the toes of a school district in the funding of their sports teams. But the reality is that when you have a freshman or a JV program that is cut out of the budget and there's a need for that in the community, and we get approached to raise $10,000, $20,000 to fill that need, we're more than happy to roll our sleeves up and do that. Those are the rare situations when you're trying to replace an entire level of competition like a freshman or a JV program. Mostly what it comes down to is if the jerseys are 10 years old, it's not in the budget, understandably so, but the team wants it and they're willing to work for it. All we do is recreate the avenue for that work to be done, and we organize it so that the headaches are not there for the head coach and the coaching staff.
You handle the headaches and let them do what they're meant to do, coach and play and
Exactly.
have a team. Can the money run the gamut as far as what it's used for, as long as it falls into a certain scope? Like, can it be for lights for a field, or like you said, jerseys? Can it be anything along those lines?
We've had it all: sprinkler systems, lights, bleachers, scoreboards. It could be something as simple as helmets, shoulder pads, the bare necessities. And what you find is that most coaches, what they were doing before we were fundraising with them is they were doing multiple fundraisers. What our program does is it really harnesses a 7 to 14 day window, in which we're trying to raise between $100 to $200 per athlete. So it's a very concentrated effort. So instead of the coach giving his nights away from his family and running 5-6 car washes in a season, or different events, or some might go to big stadiums and do cleanup, and they get paid by the stadium to do that. That's all great. The stadiums give them that opportunity, but that coach is already giving away too much of his time. So we're trying to replace those small fundraisers that they're raising $200, $300, $400, and replace them with something that's a lot more efficient.
And so how do you do that? How do you replace their fundraising events with what you have, and what is it? How do you raise the money?
So it's the program, not the product. That's
Right.
what we always say, and we refer to our program as high impact fundraising. What that means is we start out by having a game plan meeting with the entire coaching staff. We sit down and we talk about what the goals are, and we collectively create a goal statement. Sometimes it's done with just the coach, and it's as simple as how much money do you need and what do you need it for. And then once we establish how much and what it's for, the next thing we do is we do a kickoff with the team. And that's when we get the team in the bleachers. We break them up into teams. We have team leaders in charge of each, a coach in charge of each team. And then for 7 to 14 days, they are instructed on how to go to their family members and friends, people in the community, to share what their goal is. And then we always say that you're asking for donations, and as a thank you, you're getting a different product, whether it's a discount card, a coupon booklet, or a frozen cookie dough. That's why we're not about the product. We're about teaching these kids how to ask for help. And then as a result, somebody gets something as a thank you, because the people that are going to give them money
Right.
are the ones that are supporting them individually
Right.
and the school.
They don't really care about the end product, like what they get back from it, as far as a thank you. They just care that the money is going to the cause that they believe in, right?
That said, we put a tremendous amount of effort into the products as well, because there's a percentage of people that want to make sure they're getting value. So when it comes to the discount card, there's 20 discounts on the back of a discount card. We also have a website where when they register their card, they can access over 1,000 merchants statewide. They also have a mobile app that they can download on their phone.
You are plugged into all the technology that you need, the app for the phone, probably social media as well to get
Yes.
the word out. But we're almost out of time, so I want to ask you about a big event you have coming up in October, is it?
October 6th, National Coaches Day. President Nixon wrote a proclamation that October 6th would be known as National Coaches Day. And for 42 years, this has laid dormant. And as a company, we don't want to manufacture our own purposes and our own initiatives. We took this on and we adopted this, and we're the presenting sponsor for it. So the concept is all these coaches give their time away. And if you measure their per dollar return, it's very low on what they make per hour. So on October 6th, we want to give them one day. They could walk into local businesses, maybe get a free iced coffee, maybe get a discount on their pizza, maybe be able to take their coaching staffs or even their family out for a meal at a discount or for free. So that is right now what our big mission is for October 6th.
Let's give people a website so they can go and learn more.
Sure, it's www.nationalcoachesday.com, and coaches with an ES at the end.
Is there an NFP website too?
Yes, nfpsports.com.
What's on the website for people to go and see?
Well, there's examples, testimonials, video testimonials from coaches, which I think is the most important thing to have on there. And then there's also write-ups about our program from our different stakeholders, like parents, student athletes, and coaches, obviously.
James Thompson, NFP Sports. It was fascinating because I didn't know a lot about it, and I think a lot of people learned about fundraising in local sports. So thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest for the second segment is Steve Filippone. He is the head football coach for Daniel Hand High School in Madison. Thanks for being on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
As a football coach, you do interviews all the time, I would imagine, right? So you're used to this, right?
Well, it's not uncommon to be interviewed.
Hand High School, Daniel Hand, how is it as a football school? Big time?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I mean, I think we've been very successful. We've, I think we're in second place in the state of Connecticut for total state championships.
What class are you in?
Well, we kind of moved between
Okay.
L and M.
Is it because of
Yeah, size,
school population?
school size
Yeah.
and population. Yeah, but we've been very successful.
Can a small school class play against a large class? I mean, is that possible?
Well, I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
I think one of the predominant powerhouses in Connecticut has been Ansonia High School for many, many years. They have the most state championships of anyone, and they're an S school, and they play several large schools in their own league. And I really believe that Ansonia, if you put them in any division, would be very successful. So I think it's very possible.
All right. So now let's take it up another couple of dozen notches. Take one of the best schools in Connecticut. Pick one. It could be Hand or Ansonia. Plop them in Florida or Texas. How would they do there?
Well, I think we'd be very comparable in terms of our, the coaching and the schematic kind of part of the game. I think realistically, those schools produce a different kind of athlete. If you look at it, for example, the entire state of Connecticut probably on average produces 8 to 10 Division I football players a year. One school in South Florida will produce 8 or 10 Division I football players.
They grow them there.
Just one.
Yeah.
So, it's a
culture.
I think we're very, very, but we'd be very competitive in terms of the level and type of football we play, but I think we'd be outmanned.
Right. Yeah, but you know what though? The fact that you're willing to go and play them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, we would. I think Connecticut coach is very proud of what they do, and I think we'd play anybody who came along if we had the chance.
So let's talk about how you, as a coach and your school, got involved with NFP sports.
Yeah, well, I've known James for many, many years, and it's a real treat to be able to work with somebody who's so professional. We kind of dodged them for a couple of years, actually, because we had different things that we were doing. But really, we came to the point where we said, as James said earlier, we were doing a ton of different things to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And we thought if we put everything under one umbrella with NFP, we could take one good shot at it and hopefully be able to do it. And we have. I think we started out, we made $6,500, and the next year $75, and I think last year we made about $9,000. So we've really been very successful. We keep looking to get better at it and encourage our kids to do a better job.
How willing are people? Well, let me back up and ask you this question first. From a coach's perspective, is it a fact of life? Is it necessary? Fundraising is part of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In our case, not so much for programmatic needs. In other words, for helmet, shoulder, we get we get everything we need in terms of facilities, helmet, shoulder pads, all that stuff is provided for us and very well. But for the things that make a program special, those are the things you need the extra money for. You need it for so you can recognize kids throughout the season. You need it so you can upgrade, for example, a piece of equipment, a sled that maybe is 20 years old.
A lot of hits been
And
put
you-
on it.
yeah, and you can, and the technology's just increased to a much better level, so you want to improve that. And then just little things like for us, if we win a game on Wednesday, we buy our team pizza. Now to feed 50 kids, that's a lot of pizza.
Hungry kids.
Hungry kids.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to go back to our athletic director and say we need $300 a week to feed our kids pizza. But when we win 10 games in a season, you can do the math. That's a lot of pizza.
In big-time college sports, like a big football program really is a revenue generator for the schools, unlike what they would refer to as like the Olympic sports. In high schools, is it the same way? Is football and basketball your big generators financially?
Well, I think, at Daniel Hand High School
Yeah.
it is. We play Friday nights at the Surf Club, which is a great facility on the beach. And, we've got 2,000 or more people there. And it does provide some funding for the rest of the programs. We pay for ourselves, let's put it that way.
Yeah. There are so many things, fascinating things I want to talk to you about as a head coach that we were mentioning off the air. And I'll just throw some buzzwords out there.
Sure.
Like top of mind right now for all sports really are concussions.
Sure.
Big doings in all sports and action being taken. Your thoughts on it, especially from your perspective as a high school coach?
Yeah, I think that, ironically, I think in today's high school football, our players are safer, better prepared, better equipped. Coaches are more aware and we are ahead of the curve in Connecticut in terms of training coaches. Every coach in Connecticut has to do a concussion module where we do everything from recognizing concussions to how you handle players on their return. I think it's a very safe time. However, the reality is we're much more aware of head trauma than we were, say, 20 years ago even, or 10 years ago. So we're identifying a lot more kids, and it appears that the game isn't as safe as it used to be. But I don't believe that's true. I think it's just as safe or safer. We're just more aware of what's happening.
Have you had that conversation with parents that might be a little bit concerned, and have you alleviated their concerns?
Well, I've had the conversation. I'm not sure I alleviated any concerns. It's a collision sport. There's no way to eliminate that kind of contact from the game without changing it completely. So, it's risk versus reward. What's the reward for having your kid be part of a great experience on a good quality football program, or any sport for that matter, versus the risk of them having an injury? You have to be able to make those decisions as a parent, and they're not easy. But I would say, I had two boys. They both played for me for 4 years each.
You yell at them a lot?
I yelled at them plenty. The problem was I yelled at them. I brought them to school in the morning because I teach at the high school.
They don't want to.
I drove them to school in the morning. I coached them after school. I drove them home, and I sat down and ate dinner with them. And I never kind of got off their tails for the whole time. But it's a tough decision to make, but one that I think if you play sports, it's smart.
As a big school like Hand is, football-wise, and as a big-time head football coach that you are, do you have a relationship with UConn football?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We do. In fact, I had a great opportunity about a month ago, myself, Lou Marinelli, who's the coach at New Canaan, to sit down, and Sean Marinan from Xavier, to sit down with Coach Diaco for
New coach.
like a 45-minute conversation about how he can help us, and we can hopefully in some way help him.
Do you think it's important to keep kids in state whenever possible?
Absolutely, but I think there's a reality too. University of Connecticut has to recruit BCS talent.
Right.
And as I said a few minutes ago, we might have 8 to 10 Division I players. That doesn't mean they're BCS players. These are guys who can play. Some can play at that level. And I think a big problem in Connecticut has been over the years that, we felt like all the kids in Connecticut who could play at that level should all be going to UConn. And
that doesn't even happen even in other states. Not everybody stays home.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And the reality is we're not Alabama, we're not Florida. We don't have enough kids in this state to sustain a quality Division I program. So he's got to go out of state, and he's got to fight for kids from Jersey, from Pennsylvania, from Ohio.
And he has the added disadvantage of conference realignment. What are your thoughts on that, especially in terms of UConn with their unfortunate to sort of be left behind, I guess?
Well, I think that UConn's schedule now is probably one that is going to be more conducive to their success. And I think that ultimately, as they progress as a program under Coach Diaco, that at a point somebody will want to grab them up, and so I think that this is growing pains for this program.
What's your thought on artificial turf, field turf versus grass? I mean, it's probably a different issue, but I guess it's an injury issue.
Well, we played on grass for 44 years at Hand High School, and now we have a turf field. And I think that the maintenance, the ability to play it in all weather conditions, and just wear and tear on a field. If you don't have an artificial surface now, you're way behind the curve. Now, UConn playing on grass, that's a different story. That field really gets 6 or 8 games a year played on it.
Right.
So
concert here and
there. And they can hold up.
Yeah.
But if it was being played on every day, it would be a different story.
I heard James Thompson from NFP Sports off the air talking about nominating you, and you had already won an award. Talk about. I want you to brag about yourself for a minute.
Yeah, I don't like to do it, but I will. I was nominated. The National High School Coaches Association has a nominating process. They nominate coaches in 19 sports around the country, and we all get to go out to a destination. This year it was Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And from the 8 in each sport, they choose one. And I was fortunate enough to be voted the National High School Football Coach of the Year.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks very much.
We're going to take one more break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Don't go anywhere. That is our show for today. As we tape this in the summer, you have a season coming up. What are your expectations for this coming season? Undefeated?
Well, I wouldn't want to go that far. We have a very difficult schedule, but I think we'll be very competitive. We made it to the quarterfinals last year, and I think we can hope to go a little bit further than that.
Nice. All right, we'll put a graphic up on the screen for the website for the school. You can check the schedule out for that. And definitely you would want people to get involved and learn more about NFP sports and about fundraising for sports in general, correct?
Absolutely, and I would highly recommend that you seek out James and his people. They do a tremendous job, and it's coaches out there, it's very low maintenance. You know, you really can sit back and let the thing happen.
Steve Filippone, the head coach of Daniel Hand High School football in Madison. Thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That is our show. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.